Attendance rates across the United States in K-12 schools has worsened since the pandemic, and leaders in education must work to make improvements. Attendance, and even tardiness, has become a problem in our school over the past few years. Both issues affect all content areas and also include sports and extracurricular activities. There are clear expectations that mandate students attend school, and they are supposed to have specific amounts of seat time as well. Absenteeism affects all aspects of a student's schooling, including participation in the sports and extracurricular activities. Specific criteria is provided by the school district in the Student Progression Plan and Student Procedures Handbook. However, many of our students work outside the home to help support their families and work late into the night. Transportation is also an issue. If a student misses their bus in the morning, they may not have any other means to get to school. There are several reasons why students are missing school so often. The objective here is to find incentives to encourage students to be at school regularly and in class every day, on time every day. Objectives of this study included working with the PBIS team and attendance committee to determine incentives and provide these incentives to determine if attendance will improve. The attendance policy for our district needs to be further reviewed to evaluate the policies and tie absenteeism to graduation. Students who are chronically absent must be held accountable, so they must know the specific criteria for making up work, and this needs to be consistent across the board. Students who are absent 3 and 4 days a week should not be receiving their missed work for completion and then receive full credit, as they're not receiving any instruction. There must be consistent consequences school-wide or district-wide, yet meaningful incentives may be helpful in reducing absences from the start. One goal is to identify what incentives will motivate students to be regularly present in their classes. Also, an incidental finding may result regarding tardies, as tardies are also an issue and may affect academics as well. Another goal is to determine the effect of improved attendance on school culture. The more often students are present in school, there is an increased potential for more student engagement in academic, social, and extracurricular activities. Incentives don't have to be elaborate. Possible incentives include snacks, homework passes, discounted prices on athletic admission fees, and possibly reduced parking fees specifically for seniors. The expectation is that attendance will show improvement and students will perform better academically. In addition, school culture could improve because students will not be penalized for attendance, so will be able to participate in sports and other activities. Positive incentives will provide motivational support for students to be present and on time. Ultimately, students may feel more sense of belonging and have improved desire to be in school regularly. The quantitative data for this project was obtained from the attendance secretary, while the remaining data was collected from other sources. Semi-structured interviews with teachers have taken place to discuss the issue of absenteeism and receive their thoughts on the topic. Also, surveys were sent out to students, parents and guardians, teachers and staff regarding absenteeism. Surveys were shared on school communication, providing a QR code and link for easy survey access. Once the information was received, the data was analyzed and the data is presented here. Chronic absenteeism has become an issue that needs to be improved. Being out of school has a direct effect on students' academics, so incentives put in place with the PBIS team to provide students an incentive for being in attendance will help determine what significant effect those incentives have on being absent. The suggestion of a multi-tiered approach to intervention for chronic absenteeism has been raised and suggests that this style of assistance will help students recover academically, reconnect with peers, and provide support for families who have more extensive circumstances. You can see here research questions. How can chronic absenteeism be decreased through PBIS incentives, and what incentives would our students respond to? What are the main reasons that our students are not in regular attendance, and how can we change their mindset or their perspective on the importance of attendance? And third, how would the provision of incentives for regular incentive work best, and what criteria should we follow? Objectives are in place for the project, and these are to determine reasons for chronic absenteeism among our high school students, develop possible strategies that may improve upon regular attendance for our students, promote regular attendance among our students through PBIS activities. The incentives, what will motivate our students to be on time and in class regularly, is their adequate passing time. That would affect tardies. How will improved attendance improve school culture? The expectation is that attendance will show improvement and students will perform better academically. In addition, school culture could improve because students will not be penalized for attendance, so will be able to participate in sports and other activities. Positive incentives help to provide motivational support for students also to be present regularly. So the goal is to find effective incentives and be using them consistently across the school campus. Stakeholder groups will remain in place even after this study to perhaps continue PBIS attendance incentives. Student Voice is a new group that will be beginning, who will be working alongside the PBIS committee as a student group to assist the PBIS committee made up of staff and teachers so that we know what students may respond to. And then work alongside the attendance committee, maintain that goal. The attendance committee is made up of students and teachers and staff, and the goal towards 100% attendance. The consequences can be negative as well as positive, I guess. There can be negative effect on teaching and learning. Students may disconnect from their peers. Their grades could become more poor, I guess. Their grades may suffer. Truancy is a problem in our area. In addition, students who are having chronic absenteeism issues, if they are drivers, they lose their driving privileges because their privilege to drive is revoked from the Department of Motor Vehicles. These students who are having difficulty in maintaining attendance also lose the ability to attend extracurricular activities, and they're not able to participate in sports either. However, with incentives, the consequences could be great. If students respond to incentives, grades could improve. The students are able to participate in extracurriculars and sports. They become college and career ready and ready for graduation. Students who have poor attendance are more likely to drop out of school and not complete school at all. The timeline to evaluate absenteeism among the students at our school began on the first day of school through September 19th. And the goal was to look for possible trends in attendance with that goal ultimately of seeing a decrease in absentee numbers. In addition, interviews with teachers were conducted to determine their thoughts on absenteeism among our students. Now, excused versus unexcused was not differentiated, so it was strictly absentee or absences by number. So we were looking for trends. We did see that predominantly the same students were on the absent list. Males had a slight increase of 31% over the females of about 29%. Our school population, we're a public high school in a rural area with 1,476 students enrolled. The methods of data collection included obtaining attendance reports, doing semi-structured interviews with teachers and staff, conducting surveys among all stakeholders, parents and guardians, students, staff, and teachers. In addition, working with the PBIS committee and the attendance committee. So both quantitative and qualitative data was received. Further analysis included ethnicity, and 48% absent. The Caucasian or white ethnic group had more of an issue with chronic absenteeism, as well as the Hispanic group for our school. Free and reduced lunch is not a category that was looked at because our state has where every student receives free lunch, so there is no reduced lunch or free lunch. Attendance, so the data that was collected was attendance reports, and that included data by grade level, gender, ethnicity, and number of absences. The attendance secretary was able to access our Skyward program to obtain the data for me through this application and provide the report so that I could, analyze the data. I was able to ask a number of teachers, semi-structured interviews, asking them questions regarding possible trends observed in the absenteeism over the past few years, maybe reasons why students are missing school. Do they see absenteeism affecting graduation rates? And through these interviews, it was pretty straightforward. Teachers were all in the same realm of thinking that, yes, absenteeism has increased over the past few years. More students are missing school, and it is affecting graduation rates. More students are dropping out as well. The survey that was put out was a brief survey asking a few questions, and this went out to students, teachers, staff, parents, guardians, and then the data collected was able to help include reasons for absenteeism and determine potential strategies that could help improve attendance rates. The stakeholders were able to provide valuable information for why students are absent. The PBIS committee, we continue to collect data, and we're going to be working with the Student Voice Committee to determine potential incentives that they believe their peers would respond to so that we can work harder at improving our absentee rate. The Absentee Committee is comprised of school counselors, teachers, students, and with that, they will work again alongside the PBIS Committee and Student Voice to help find ways to improve our attendance rates. The committee, we were able to meet as a whole with the committee and with the committee sponsor to gain information as far as what they see the students asking for at this point as well. Student Voice, again, that is going to be starting in the next couple weeks. Unfortunately, with it being the start of the school year, that group has not yet officially begun, but we are gathering students who are willing to serve on that committee and be a voice for their peers. We anticipate that committee starting the beginning of October, which is very soon. So you can see here the data that was collected, and hopefully that is going to help us. So the average rating of the importance of regular attendance was 4.88 out of 5 among all the respondents for the survey, which included, again, staff, students, parents, guardians, and teachers and staff. And you can see they were able to rank they were able to put some suggested reasons that were, now these reasons were ones that students offered as far as why their peers may be absent, and they were able to rank them according to which reason was the most common for these. And you can see for the first, the most common, sick or medical appointments was the most common reason, the first choice of many. Then secondly, you could see that some students just don't think it's important. And third was they just don't want to go, or it's boring. And the next one, they overslept or missed the bus. And then kind of not really a factor, or less of a factor, is having no friends. And you can see the weather issues were not a concern at all. But you can see where they were thinking on this graph. So 4.63 is the average rating that regular attendance positively affects academic success. Now remember, again, this is for all stakeholders responding to this survey. So that's parents, students, teachers. So predominantly the same students were being seen as the same names on the absent list. So frequently it's the same students. But you can see here their thoughts on how many days, the survey respondents, the thoughts on how many days that are acceptable to be absent from a whole school year of 180 days. 56% of the respondents said 9 days or less, which is consistent with our school policy per semester, 9 days or less. 44% thought 10 to 25 days, and 26 to 50 or more than 50 days was not even a response that was chosen. However, there was a student who jokingly said, as long as you make it or make up the work, it's okay to miss school. And the student did then say, I'm just kidding. So early release days happened to show an increase in attendance issues. So more students were absent on early release days. And for an example, one of my current students has already been absent 12 days out of 29, with that including 2 early release days. So it's a huge issue for many students. Here you can see some quantitative data. You can see the different grade levels and how they're showing their range. And you'll see on the far right of this chart, you'll see the male versus female and how that is changing. So you have the first 5 weeks of school. The third week was a half day at the end of that week, right before the long weekend of Labor Day. So perhaps that's why the data fell. I'm not so sure. But that's what we as a committee believed in PBIS. But you can see it's fairly consistent where one particular grade level is missing more than the rest, and that being the seniors. And then males and females are pretty much right about the same. You can also see where attendance levels went down, not so significantly, but somewhat, especially significantly for seniors, is because the third and fourth week of school, we already have started retakes on graduation mandated testing. So those seniors who frequently miss school, who are required to be present for that testing, you can see that that may make a change, and that actually didn't really affect the seniors, but it did affect the sophomores and freshmen in that they really didn't change much, and the juniors as well. But the seniors, they did go up a little bit, and that happens more and more as the school year goes by. For whatever reason, senioritis was the joke of the springtime, where our seniors used to get excited about graduation upcoming, and they would start missing more and more school. Well, over the past few years, that senioritis phenomenon has been moving further and further towards the beginning of the school year, and you can see here that we already have a significant amount of attendance issues. Another suggestion, in addition to those here on this slide, incorporates working together with families to support student attendance as well as learning. This would also improve student engagement. Attendance is important to higher achieving students. So our students are going to achieve more the more they're in attendance. If I had time to do this project or this analysis over a longer period of time, I believe the incentives and types of incentives would have changed, and I'm hoping that that would have had a positive effect on our attendance. So I'm hoping to continue that with the PBIS committee and get incentives that our students really respond to. Testing, definitely. There's no real way around the mandated state testing and that testing for graduation. So that's something we need to continue to work with our students and continue to encourage them to come to school even if they're not testing, so that they can get the instruction they need as well as take that graduation required testing. And then, just to try our best to get them to come to school. And also, one thing would be, I can't seem to go back to the last slide, but one thing is that now that we are in school, our students are around each other far more. So we are seeing some uptick in illness, colds and flu, that kind of thing. But hopefully once they've been around each other for a few weeks, that will level off as well. And then this is my bibliography, and thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed.